Martin Bailey here. So today we're going to follow up on the first part of this series to show you about my first experiences in developing film. We started off in the first episode showing you how to load the film and unload it from the Yashica D. This is a TLR camera that I bought recently, and it's really just a bit of fun. I've always wanted to develop my own film. But this, regardless of the camera, if you've exposed a roll of 120 film, this will possibly be of use to you. We're going to walk through in this part, part 2, how to get the film onto the reels or the spools. Now, I've bought into the Paterson system, and this is basically it's a light sealed tank which you put the spool in with the film on to do the developing. Once you've got this funnel here clicked into place, it's light sealed, and so you can then start to put in your chemicals and then use the lid to keep it tight. But this is all going to be in the next episode. What we're going to do now is actually go through how to get the film onto the spool, because this is an art unto itself. The Paterson universal tank comes with 2 spools, and these basically, if you twist them, need a little bit of force, but if you twist them you can move them into a number of different come apart. And if you, on the widest setting, you can use them for 120 film. On their narrowest setting they will work with 35mm film, and you can actually do 2 in the tank. But when doing 120 you can only do 1. So what we're going to do is we're going to practice initially. Really, you're going to need to ruin a film to give yourself something to practice with, because this does take a little bit of getting accustomed to. So what you need to look at is there are these grooves on the Paterson system and bearings which will help us to ratchet the film through. You need to feed the film through these grooves. And so, imagine you've shot your film, and this film is actually, it's getting a little bit kinked now because I've found a few things out as I've been doing this, and so it's gone through the works a little bit. But imagine that this is actually a new film. What you need to do is, I'm leaving the backing paper on because it does actually fall away quite nicely when you are working with this. And the first part is basically, there's nothing exposed on there anyway. So the thing to do is to use your hands and try to get start this off. If you start it off like that, with your hands either side, pull it past the bearings. Once you've done that, you literally just have to ratchet it, and the film will just feed itself into the spool. And then when you get towards the end, it starts to get a little bit tight because the film is more tightly wound. And if we keep going, we'll get to a point where you can see the backing tape. And what you would normally do is tear that away at that point, and then you're ready. You just need to feed this on a few more times, and you would be ready to put the film into the tank and seal it up, and then it would be light tight. Now, the fun part is that you have to do all of this inside a dark bag. Now, the reason this is all kinked is because I tried to do this in a room that was like 31 degrees Celsius, and it was too warm. I started to record a second follow-up video that I was going to sort of superimpose into the corner, and it was just way too warm and my hands got sweaty. I was told that if you get any moisture on this film, on the edges, it will not feed into the spool. And I did just that. It gets really hot in here, and in a room that's 31 degrees Celsius, my hands got all sweaty inside the bag, and I got to a certain point and it just cramped up. It stopped altogether. So you need to make sure that it's cool enough in your environment so that you don't get sweaty with your hands in the bag. Now, I'm going to put this back on the roll and do a few more practices inside the bag, and then we're going to look at the development. Really, this is my first experience with this sort of stuff. I shot 35mm film years ago, slide film, loved it, but since switching to digital I've not done that. I've always wanted to develop my own film though, and so picking up this old Yashica D gave me a bit of incentive to give it a try for myself. So I'm sharing my experience with you as a beginner, warts and all. So I hope this is useful, and I will look forward to seeing you in part 3.